Today, we're looking at Colorverse Space Laika. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Colorverse Space Laika is a brown ink. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I put the ink into a different pen for a day. I then put it into a Retro 51 Tornado with a broad nib to take my notes for this video. Now, before we look at the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is the chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies, and this one's interesting. We see a dark, rich yellow that is at the bottom, pushing its way up, and then we get this purple at the top. Really cool as their way to mix a brown. What is also incredibly interesting is what happens on the second chromatography when I let it dry. It dried for 10 minutes before I put it into water. We see this very greenish brown line across the bottom. Now that's because most of the yellow stayed there in place and some of the purple stayed there in place. A little yellow pushed up, a lot less of the purple across the top of this chromatography. It's really interesting because it looks like it's two totally different inks. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on a page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pens. Now, I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it handles itself respectably well. There's a tiny bit of spreading that occurs. That extra fine becomes about a fine. The top of the lowercase h gets a little bit wiggly in a spot, but it makes me feel safe to use this as a note taker. Where it's interesting is that second chromatography makes me think about what's going on with these chemicals. When we look at water, it's only removing basically the purples, all those dark tones off the top, and it's leaving that yellow behind. Some of the purples are there, which is why we're still seeing the blue, but it's only reactivating the purple. Pen Flush is doing the same thing. It's only reactivating the purple aspects of this ink. The yellow is very much there, and not all the purple is even coming up. It's kind of a scary proposition here. 1/3 bleach solution did not remove the yellow from the paper. Not at all. It didn't budge it. This means you need to make sure that you use this ink in a more inexpensive pen before you take it to an expensive pen, because that yellow has the potential of staining your converter or your piston chamber. So, should you need to use it, don't expect that it will definitely get all of the ink out, because it might not. Use your inexpensive pens as good testers. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with a realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Colorverse Space Laika has a viscosity of 3.93, making this a super dry, and it's a dense ink, but very, very dry to write with. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done with the extra fine and medium nib on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Colorverse Space Laika has an average dry time of 16 seconds, making it normal. Now, let's look at the writing samples.
I picked this ink up in sample form and it is almost all gone, which is usually a good sign, and I'm recording this one twice because my batteries all died. To keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairefontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shading whatsoever. There's so much about this ink through all of the writing samples that I should not like, but I like this tone. The extra fine is a little bit lighter than the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 10 seconds to dry. The medium is a significantly darker tone than the extra fine. The medium is a little darker than the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 14 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect any and we didn't get any. The smear test, I believe you could recover this if you smeared while you were writing. Tomoe River, no bleeding, lots of ghosting, because that's what Tomoe River does. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. The extra fine is a little bit lighter than the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 18 seconds to dry. Beautiful tones here. Even the medium where it's much darker. Sometimes I don't care for browns when they're too dark, but the right brown, really dark, beautiful. And this one, the right brown, very dark. The medium has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 23 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show no color variation, and we got none. The smear test you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. Rhodia has no bleeding or ghosting. The 1.1 is a beautiful tone with no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shading. The extra fine is a slightly lighter tone than the 1.1 with no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 12 seconds to dry. Medium is a significantly darker tone than the extra fine, darker even than the 1.1. The medium has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 16 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect any and we didn't get any. And the smear test, you could recover this if you smeared while you were writing. So we went to Life notebook paper where we got no bleeding and only minor ghosting. Now this is a pretty dark brown and it's on a cream paper, but it does ghost some. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, beautiful tones of brown here. This is nice, just lovely, really. The extra fine is a slightly lighter tone than the 1.1. The extra fine has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade, 10 seconds to dry. The medium is a significantly darker tone than the extra fine or the 1.1. It is quite a bit darker than the 1.1. The medium has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 15 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect any and we didn't get any. And the smear test, you could recover this if you smeared while you were writing. Levenger paper has no bleeding and no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. The extra fine is a slightly lighter tone. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shading, 7 seconds to dry. The medium is a significantly darker tone than the extra fine. It's darker than the 1.1, quite a bit darker than the 1.1. Still a beautiful tone of brown. If you like brown inks, yes. The medium has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 11 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it and we didn't get it. And the smear test you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. Franklin Christoph, last up, no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade, 4 seconds to dry. Now the medium is a significantly darker tone than the extra fine or the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade, 6 seconds to dry. I have to talk about these colors here because on this paper, it's the tone of the paper, it's not the paper. On this tone of this, it's not the same, it's not like it's white. This tone, the ink doesn't look as good. It's just a tone of the paper thing. It would be something to sort of stay away from, in my opinion. The scrubby for the extra fine and the medium show us no color variation. We didn't expect any, and we didn't get any. And the smear test, yes, you could recover this if you smeared while you were writing. And that is all that I have for the writing sample. Instead of finding inks that look like Colorverse Space Laika, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. Now, being a dark brown, I was really thinking of a yellow brown, which is a gold color. That put me to Krishna's Freedom Gold. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe.
So what do I think of Colorverse Space Laika? There is a significant tone difference that you can get from your extra fine to your broad nibs. Now with that, while I normally, it depends on sort of the tones I'm getting. If I'm getting pleasant tones all the way through the nibs, it's not a problem. If I find only certain tones I like, it's nice to know. And that's what happened here. I like how this looks in a broad, wet pen. With a broad, wet pen, the brown that you get is absolutely gorgeous. It wasn't a good brown for me in any other nib or flowing pen. Like drier pens, it really didn't do it for me. But broad, wet, this looks fantastic. I only use it in inexpensive pens because of some of the action of that yellow aspect of this ink, where it does have a tendency to take just a bit longer to clean out of your pen. Thanks for watching.